miss a lot of nights and weekends. Hockey and basketball too, 41 home games a year, and then if you travel with the team, even more. Now, there's a lot of huge rewards here. Money isn't always one of them. Depending on what job you have in sports, it's not necessarily lucrative. But you've got to think about how passionate am I about sports. Now, there are jobs that don't involve as much of this as others. If you're going to work game night promotions, if that's what you love, if you truly love game presentation, if you want to be the guy that puts the stuff up on this screen, yeah, you got to be there every home game. And there are people that love that. I have friends that they love the live event stuff. They just live for that. There are other jobs where you can be involved in sports where that isn't necessarily part of what you do. It's probably going to be sometimes part of it. You know, you're going to need to take clients to games. You're going to need to do things like that, but not necessarily always. So as you're thinking about what you want to do in your life, consider that. Anybody think about being a coach? Sure. My whole family, other than me, are coaches. My sister coaches the boys volleyball team. My dad coached at Texas Wesleyan for years. My mother was the head women's tennis coach at Ohio State in the 1960s. There was not a big program, even at Ohio State in the 1960s. Women's athletics had not developed. So I kind of grew up on that. In fact, I loved, one of my favorite childhood memories is going with my dad on road trips. He was the head tennis coach at Texas Wesleyan. And so I loved getting to go in the van with the team and all the guys, and that was awesome. And so, clearly my sister loved that as well. She turned into a coach. But think about the schedules your coaches keep. You guys, probably a lot of you play athletics here at Wakeland. Think about the schedules that they keep. And don't get me wrong, it's still awesome. And high school athletics is different from pro athletics as well. You know, the travel isn't as burdensome. There's different things. But the point is, all of this stuff that goes into those factors, that's stuff you need to be thinking about. And it's probably not a bad idea to be thinking about it now, as you're thinking about what colleges you're going to go to and stuff like that. I don't remember what the next slide is, Leon, but if you want to advance it for me. Okay. So, when you're making these decisions about what you want to do, now you got to figure out how you're going to go get it. Okay? So you've made the decision that, yeah, I do want to work in sports. I want to work game nights, or I want to work in sales, which, by the way, sales, if you can learn sales skills, first of all, that makes you valuable in any industry, but it really makes you valuable in sports. First of all, it's a great entry-level job. If you can figure out how to sell tickets, that is a great way to break in. It's hard. It's not easy. The churn on that is fierce. We would always, like when I was at the Rangers, we always saw people come in, they'd be there for a few months, and then we'd never see them again because they couldn't handle the ticket sales factor. But if you can get good at it, you can prepare to do it and do that skill will always be valuable. So, thinking about marketing yourself is what you want to do. So this is valuable for you're going to get into college, you're going to get a job, you're going to get an internship, any of that. I'm a big fan of LinkedIn. I actually think their interface is a little clunky, but their database is incredible.
They all have profiles.
Good. So many tools you can use to make your LinkedIn profile robust. You can add projects to them, things you've worked on. You can add rationale to things. So if you, at my LinkedIn page, one of the things I did with my Rangers side of it, I didn't just say I worked at the Rangers. I tried to list accomplishments. I tried to list, here's what I did. I don't know if that's some other thing I pulled. But
there you go.
Yeah. So if you go down to where the Rangers are, right there. Okay, so you'll notice I didn't just put what I did. I put all the things that I felt like I accomplished, places I innovated, places I thought of things, stuff where people could look and go, oh wow, yeah, I do need somebody that knows how to do that. Or, wow, okay, that guy kind of thought out of the box there. He kind of thought about what it, took situations to make them better, which for what I do is important. So you can do that. You'll also, if you notice up here, you'll also notice that you can add projects and things like that. One thing I've gotten a habit of is trying, wherever I go and do stuff, I try to take photos. I try to take images. If I'm on a shoot, I make sure I try to get an image or something. Now that's useful in social media. Certainly you want to show, with my company, I want to show a regular presence. Hey, he's posting stuff up, he must be doing something. But it also helps when you're putting together a package. You know, if I'm doing a proposal for somebody and I want to say, look, this project you want me to do, it's a lot like this project I did. Helps to have visuals. Same is true for you guys. Take photos. When you go to a game, take a photo. Use it for your social media, but then you've also got it if you want to put something together like this. And so that's one of the things I try to do. So trying to pull out, you know, different things I had done. That one particular stuff you see there is for the Fort Worth Weekly stuff I did. So I pulled out a few of the columns that I thought were either my better ones or ones that were actually, you know, that may have somebody involved in it that people have heard of. A lot of people have heard of Dirk Nowitzki and stuff like that. So leave that up there. So that's one thing you can definitely do with your LinkedIn that's important, is to demonstrate competence. To show that, yeah, this person knows something. This person has done something. This person didn't just go to class at Wakeland. This person got an internship, and here's what he or she did there, and here's the ideas that he or she came up with while they were doing it, and stuff like that. So LinkedIn gives you a lot of opportunities to do that. The other thing is, connect with people. One of the first things I did when I decided, I remember the exact day that I decided I was going to leave the Rangers and go out on my own. It was actually during the 2010 postseason. And at that point, it had become apparent to me because of several things that I felt like I had hit my ceiling. I wasn't going to move up. First thing I did, I went through stacks of old business cards, my Rolodex. I had an actual physical Rolodex, and connected with everybody that didn't hate me on LinkedIn. Anybody that I probably thought I didn't suck, I connected with them on LinkedIn. Because one of the great things about LinkedIn is, it's a social media, but it's a very low impact social media. I'm not asking to see pictures of your kids. I'm not asking for all the intimate details of your life. I'm connecting with you professionally. And so one of the things I thought was, you know what? I don't need anything from these folks now. But someday down the road, I might. Let me connect with them now when I don't need anything from them, when it's just, hey, you know, haven't talked in a while, good to see you. And so when I do need to see something from them, now I'm top of mind. Now I'm not that guy you haven't seen in 10 years. I'm that guy you're connected to on LinkedIn. So that's another reason why I'm a big believer in LinkedIn, is it's a good way to make connections without causing any sort of disruption to someone's life. So one of the things I recommend doing is, think about all the people you know that are in business. Not just the sports business, but business in general, because business people do business with sports people. People buy tickets, people buy sponsorships, they do things like that. Think of all those folks, friends of your parents, people you might have worked with at a summer job, probably a lot of people you know that are in business that would be good to connect with. Fellow students as well, because one of the things that's good about LinkedIn is, when you're connected with somebody, now you can see their connections. So if you're going for a job at, say, a sports team, and you realize that this guy has a brother-in-law who works for that sports team, how handy is that? So be nice to this guy, okay? Probably a good idea, Joe. All right, you want to hit the next one early on? So, networking, really important. Some key things to remember. Point one, the way I usually phrase this, I won't put it in print, but I'll say it now. The most important thing you can do in networking is to figure out a way to show somebody you don't suck. To show somebody that you're not one of those people that they don't want to work with. Because we've all worked with people that are terrible. You've probably even encountered that here. Have you ever worked with somebody that was just awful? If I don't know you, I don't know that you're not that person. If you can find a way to show somebody that you don't suck, you have gone a long way to getting an opportunity to work with them. And so LinkedIn helps with that, you know, putting your stuff, your accomplishments up there. Here's what you did. You clearly demonstrated that you've got a little something. But then doing it on a personal basis is important as well. And so if you get the opportunity, You got to try to show people that you've got what it takes. Spelling counts in sports. Some people are better at it than others. But you can't misspell a name. You can't do things like that. And what that gets to, a lot of detail. Attention to detail. If I'm going to hire somebody, I want to know that he or she is going to have attention to detail and not going to make me look bad. And that's especially true these days with what I do in social media. I do a lot of work for Nancy Lieberman Charities, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. And they just had to fire their social media person because I don't even know if it was a she or a he. Not attention to detail. Got names wrong, got stuff wrong, just wasn't buttoned up about it. And that happens. Another thing to keep in mind, I alluded to this a little bit earlier, but sports hits a lot of places. Whatever skills you've got, whatever you're good at, there's probably a place for it in sports. If you're good at math, the mayor was just talking about how important analytics are. If you're good at analysis there, if you're good at chemistry, think how many sports drinks are out there. Anything you're good at, there's probably a place for it in sports. So when you're thinking about your career path, there's a lot of different ways you do. You're not going to get the first job you love right out of college. Sometimes you got to go work in a mailroom. But to the extent that you can pick the right mailroom, for me, the right mailroom was the one at the TV station that carried a lot of sports. If you end up, say, getting a degree in accounting in college, wouldn't it be awesome to work in accounting for a sports team? Okay, maybe that's something you've identified as something that would make you really happy. And every good sports team has an accounting department. That's somewhere you can start making some contacts. Whether that's working for a minor league team, whether that is working for a company that has connections, trying to pick that stuff out, thinking big picture, where can you go to eventually get yourself there? And whether that's, that could be legal. You may want to go to law school. So many different things you could do that you could eventually bring back to sports. So, another thing to do, I've become a huge fan of this over the past few years because I've done some work for them. Think about nonprofits. Okay? There are a lot of nonprofits out there, and I was going to show you a video, but I think it's a quick time issue. There are a lot of nonprofits out there that are involved in sports and have sports things that they do. So I've been doing a lot of work for Nancy Lieberman Charities. I counted up this event we did last Monday, had 9 Hall of Famers there from different sports. There are so many opportunities there. And so what do nonprofits need? They need free labor. They need people with good attitudes. They need competence just as much as anybody else. And 9 Hall of Famers. I mean, you go work for a place like that for free, who knows what contacts you can make. The guy that hosted it was an ESPN Sports Center anchor. If you want to work for ESPN, you can do a lot worse than making that sort of contact. And that's something that is not hard to do because nonprofits need volunteers. So this event, which if I eventually figure out how to place in these videos, I'll show you, is a video we just finished for an event called the Taste of the Cowboys. It's going to be held right over here at the Star. Am I pointing the right way? Which way is the Star?
That way.
That way. Okay. Right over here at the Star for the North Texas Food Bank. Benefits them. And there's going to be tons of current and former Cowboys there. There's going to be Cowboys people. That's exactly the sort of event that if you're trying to network and meet people in the industry, would be a great thing to be at. Plus, definitely one thing I found is, if the worst thing that happens is you come out of there feeling like you did something good for the charity, when you think about, again, the big picture of your life and how you feel about stuff and how you feel about your life and yourself, that's really not the worst thing. If you make no money or no connections at all, the worst thing that's happened is you've gone and helped feed some hungry people or helped some kids get a basketball court built or whatever. So I've become a big fan of working, of using nonprofits as a way to network and get your foot in the door. All right, so that's where to find me. I know darn well Leon has already put this on like a million things that he's given to you because that's the way he rolls. And but if you want to connect with me, you can. All right, questions?
You want your Marty Turco?
No. Those were bonus slides in case I ran short, but I was going to leave a little time for questions. Justin, Marty Turco, but since we can get the video to work, I'm a little short there. But I can talk about it too if nobody has questions. Any questions? Anything you want to know?
So what creative classes did you take in school, or was it more on the job training that allowed you to?
It was really more on the job, and that was working with the campus radio station and the newspaper, and doing some TV. They had a TV studio there. Now at Trinity, it's really nice. There's a lot of on-the-job stuff. Now I did actually the best class I took at Trinity was an audio production class. In fact, I still keep up with the professor. He just retired this last year. And it wasn't so much the technical stuff I learned in that audio production class, although that stuff was certainly useful. What this professor was really good at was making me think about the big picture of a project. All right, here's what I want to accomplish. How do I use the tools at my disposal to do it? And thinking about the flow of a project. And that's really useful. One of the things I always tell people if I'm doing a talk about just straight up creative, whenever you're doing a creative project, the most important thing you can do is have a point. Have something you're trying to accomplish. Because once you know what story you're trying to tell, now you can come up with a creative way to do it. To come up with an out-of-the-box way to do it. So one of the videos I was going to show you, which I'll just attempt to summarize, the next big project I've got coming up, or hopefully one of the big projects, but the next big project is a documentary about Nancy Lieberman's life. I don't know how much you know about her. She's a basketball Hall of Famer, did amazing stuff. She was an Olympian. She made the Olympic team at 17. She won 2 national championships at Old Dominion. She worked with Martina Navratilova on her conditioning to help Martina Navratilova become the #1 tennis player in the world, and totally revolutionized how tennis players approach their game. She played in men's pro leagues. She coached, became the first head coach of the Texas Legends, and then assistant coach with the Sacramento Kings. She's done amazing stuff, and so I'm really excited about being able to tell this story. When I was putting together the trailer for it, I needed some unusual way to tell that story. And what I ended up doing was actually telling it not from her standpoint. I didn't want to just make it like any other trailer. I didn't want to just make it, she did this, she did this, she did this, she's amazing. So the way I approached it was, I actually had a teenager, a girl, talk about it as if it were her story. And what if I made the Olympic team at 17? What if I did this? What if I did that? And then at the end, tied it all back to, because one of the things we want to do with this documentary is tie it into her charity, have it be a fundraiser, and have that be part of the storytelling, was what the charity does is it hopefully positions young people for being able to tell their own awesome story because of all the things they accomplished. And so, pretty simple device, but hopefully something that's a little different, something that makes it run, not quite exactly the same as every other documentary trailer you've seen. So that's one thing to keep in mind is if you know what you're trying to accomplish, you can then come up with a creative way to do it. And that's true pretty much in any story you're telling. And a lot of what you guys are going to be doing if you're going out and looking for jobs, things like that, is figuring out ways to tell your own story. What's a creative way to tell it? And that applies no matter what field you're going into. I have a friend who's an accountant who says, I'm an accountant by profession, but not by attitude. And, even if that's the sort of thing you want to go into and you think, oh, how boring. Now, there's a creative way to make it clear that you are the accountant to watch.
What sport allowed you to do the most and learn that you worked in? I mean, which one allowed you the flexibility for the opportunity to do other things?
I'm getting different. I guess different ones had different things. Certainly the Rangers was probably the thing that gave me the most different opportunities. Especially the last couple of years I was at the Rangers. We had a period at the Rangers where we cruised through several different VPs of marketing, and we had a lot of turnover. And and so in terms of direction, and some of those people were better than others and things like that. As a creative guy, sometimes it was hard to really let